Well, good afternoon and welcome to our May Ranching 101 webinar presented by AgTrust. Today, you'll hear from an industry expert who will share practical herd management strategies that support animal health, performance, and overall productivity. Before we start, please join me for a short message from AgTrust.
When your passion is agriculture and a rural way of life, you need a partner who understands. That partner is AgTrust Farm Credit, formed from two trusted farm credit associations. Our mission is to provide personalized financing tailored for full and part-time farmers, ranchers, agribusinesses, and rural homeowners. And because we live in the communities we serve, AgTrust Farm Credit is here to help you succeed.
Well, today we are excited to have Dee Church with Nutrition Plus join us today as our guest speaker. And just a reminder, if you have any questions during this webinar, please submit them in the chat box or the Q&A box below. And at this time, I'll let Dee introduce himself and take it away.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having us. Like she said, I'm Dee Church, Vice President of Nutrition Plus Livestock Supplements. We're based out of Canyon, Texas, and we have commissioned sales reps all around the region: Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado. So a wide range of Texas cattle raisers customers are our customers. So we go hand in hand with what Cattle Raisers supports. We've been a part of Cattle Raisers since our inception in 2003. And we really love what y'all are doing, and we like this educational piece. And we really thanks for having us on here, because it's something fun to talk about, something we appreciate, being part of the team. So we'll jump right into it. Brent told me today that we're kind of talking about beef beyond the fence and what nutrition can do for you and your herd. I know there's lots of different types of producers on here, first-time producers or long-time producers. So I think what we have today will kind of help anybody. I'm excited for the future. I'm younger in my team. I'm the younger end of my team, and so I think what we're going to talk about today will really maybe spark a fire for knowledge and learning and see what's next. So, and Bryn's running my slideshow, so I'll have her click to the next screen. Hey, Bryn, on this, it's not showing the full slideshow.
Okay. What do you see right now? Do you see the history slide, or what are you missing?
There we go. There it goes now.
Oh,
History slide. We're
perfect.
good
Okay.
there. So what, kind of a little bit about Nutrition Plus. We're not like every other feed company out there. We specifically go into supplements, and like what I try to tell people that aren't full, ag people, is like we're in GNC for cows. We're the supplements, we're the minerals, we're the next level up when you want that next set of performance out of your calf herd. In 2003, we started Nutrition Plus. There were some owners that were all commissioned sales reps, and they saw the industry going in a way that maybe they didn't completely agree with, because some of the corporate structure, some of the things changing. They thought that our customer base was getting left in the dust. So back in 2003, they went ahead and they quit that business and they started their own. There were 8 guys, and they said, we can service our team. We can service these customers. We're going to create custom mixes that take care of these guys. And so with that was the inception of Nutrition Plus. And they created a company that knew the business, knew the customers. We were hands-on. And then now, 23 years later, we've grown that to over 50 commissioned sales reps over Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado. and all these guys are entrenched in day-to-day operations. I mean, they are equine guys, they are cow guys, they are selling cattle on the feed side and raising cow calves. And so a wide range of men and women that know the industry are here hands-on to help you get through it. Next slide. One of our process, and probably what we believe makes us a little different, we have a full-time range specialist, and we'll send him out to any ranch that would like forage samples. We'll take him out there. We'll let him walk through your ranch, how you like to produce cattle, what your goals are with your cow calf herd, based on how quickly you can get them moved around, how quickly you can get feed out to them, when it rains, when it doesn't rain. Selling all the way to Arizona, a lot less rainfall than selling in Beaumont, Texas. So we really like to go be at your ranch and be a part of your team. Usually your representative in that area will know exactly what you're doing. He'll probably know your kids. And so having that next level range specialist really helps us to know what's the best for your ranch and your herd. And with that, we go out there and we take forage samples. So we'll look at the grass, we'll look at everything you have in front of you, and we'll actually test your feed, test your forage, and test your waters. And we'll be able to find the deficiencies within that calf herd, and we'll also be able to find the nutrient intakes and what antagonists are tying that up. Molybdenum is one example of that. What is tying up the copper? Is there high sulfur in your water? Is there high salt in your water? Why are your cattle not eating supplements like maybe you expect them to? Hands-on, we'll be able to help with that. Once the forage is tested, we create a mineral supplementation program, and we actually go over that with you. We show you pros and cons of different additives, different technologies, different basic things. And we actually will fit that and tailor that to maybe a price point that you feel comfortable spending, because you can go all the way max out to the top, or you can go least amount input costs, and you'll get results within between that, because we all know the more you add doesn't mean better, but sometimes if you add enough good, you'll reap the benefits of that. We believe it's extremely important to take samples at different points in the forage growing season. You'll have your fall grasses, you'll have your winter grasses, you'll have your spring grasses. And depending on your rainfall area and where you're at, every one of those is going to change. Every one of those is going to be different. So we think that's extremely important, to know your place and know your ranch better than anyone else. And with the technologies of today, there's really no reason not to have that knowledge. I really believe, I think the things and the information that we have access to today, I mean, there's no reason to be producing beef the way we did in the 50s. We can have similar goals, produce as many calves as we can, produce as high weaning weights as we can. But to say we're raising cattle the same way as we did 75 years ago, I don't believe that to be true. I think we've come a long way with vehicles and supplementation, and just the whole world has changed in 75 years, that we're sure need to jump on board and stay in front of the game on producing high quality beef. After we take forage samples, next slide, I'll show y'all an example of what a forage sample analysis would look like. On this, if it's kind of small print, I can tell. You can zoom in there, you can save this and look at it another time. Or you can call us and we'll bring one to your ranch. But with this is a sample ID of one ranch. We like to take multiple samples across different parts of the ranch, and then we combine that to make a common one mineral for the entire ranch that tries to meet all needs. If your ranch is extremely variable, we'll make multiple custom mixes. So with that, to look into details, this ranch was far west Texas. As you can see, it has a little bit of moisture in the kind of early spring growing grasses here. And then if you look down through it there, we're kind of low on energy. We're good on calcium. We need a little phosphorus. We need some magnesium. And on the left side, you can see those ingredients broke down. And then on kind of in the middle, we see the as is basis and the dry matter basis. And then one of the columns says nutrient deficient. You can look down through there and we can see that it is deficient in protein, deficient in TDN, deficient in net energy maintenance, deficient in phosphorus, magnesium, copper. Those are extremely common. Most grasses are not just going to meet all nutrient needs. And then we really need to see what kind of cattle are on them, if they're calving cows, or if they're lactating cows, or if they're dry cows. At what stage in production are we trying to meet their nutrient deficiencies? And so with that, these cows are probably calving. I did not take this forage sample. This is just an example of one that we took recently. So I'm going to assume that they have young calves on the ground. They're probably starting to lactate. That's why we're seeing the large deficiencies. With that, we then put a mineral near it, or the next column is a mineral at 2 ounce, 3 ounce, and 4 ounce consumption. And then we can see there that at 3 ounces and at 4 ounces, this NP2 mineral with a small piece of magnesium actually takes over and covers the nutrient deficiency. And so with that, it's plug and play. It's a puzzle. It's extremely interesting to say, okay, here's the science. Here's what we know. We took real life hands-on forage samples. We know cow-calf nutrient requirements based on the NRC. Obviously, that's variable in opinion at time, but it's the Bible, what we go off today. The next thing is we fit a mineral that meets those needs and those deficiencies. Any producer needs to do this. If you're running cow-calf pairs, if you're running stocker calves, you need to know what your forages are, what their nutrient availability is. I like to talk about minerals. I think that the most important thing is to cover your protein and energy deficiencies first. That's the big dog. That's the thing to think about. Once you have those two covered, the minerals is the next thing. The minerals it gets you to that next level. Originally, we go to the next slide and talk through that. There's multiple ways. Back in the 50s and back in the 60s, that's kind of when mineral supplementation kicked off. That's when it was most interesting. On this slide, we'll talk about ways to get mineral to your cattle, but on the next slide, we'll talk about the different technologies and kind of what the future is going into. But a little history is that back in the 50s and 60s, minerals is a byproduct of the mining industry. And so they would pull these minerals, these rock minerals out of the ground, and they were sulfates and oxides. So your copper, zinc, manganese, those are metals that come out of the ground. And we found out that we knew that these cattle were deficient, a copper deficiency. You can see a red tinge, and they're getting sick, or a zinc deficiency. You can notice that with a trained eye. And with that, we were supplementing these minerals out of the ground in these oxide and sulfate forms to help with the true deficiencies. Now, with better feed technologies today, better feed programs, we're kind of in a transition. Yes, we're supplementing for deficiencies, but we're also supplementing to get the next level up. Your cattle can only be as good as the nutritive value that you give them. They may have all the genetics in the world, but if they're not fed to meet those genetics, then they won't ever meet their top end. So with cattle being price tired and beef bringing the most money it ever has, and the industry just at a max that it's seen, to leave dollars on the table with slim margins is not probably the best way to do it. Um, in the 90s is when they kind of created a better mineral, organic chelated trace mineral. That then changed some of the industry, and instead of playing from behind and playing to meet deficiencies, now we're playing from medium, and now we're trying to push forward. How much better can they do with the right ingredients? How much more can they do with the right nutritive value? And so that's what we're going to get into today, is maybe not the basics of protein and energy supplementation, but maybe we're going to let's get into what's next. What are we missing? What can we push for? I think in the feedlot industry, we're way up in that. We have that down, and we're learning more every day, but we're pushing in the cow-calf industry. Maybe we're still playing behind from the 8 ball. Maybe we are thinking like we did in the 80s of, well, let's just meet the basic needs and get a live calf to market. The guys that are pushing forward are getting paid for it, and you are starting to see a split in the industry of the ones that are getting a live calf to market and the ones that are getting the best calves to market. Let's talk about a few ways to get these products to your herd. What we do, and there's multiple feed avenues. You can add minerals to your feeds. Those are cake or a mixed feed, total mixed ration, TMR, and or some sort of cube or protein supplement, or that's different ways of getting feed and energy to your animal. And with that, you can add minerals to it. True mineral supplementation comes from either a tub, a hard cooked tub, molasses based tub, or a loose mineral that's a dry, loose, mixed in a 50-pound bag or 40-pound bag, or in a pressed block. And so we make all of these with custom names, custom to ranch. Not every company does that. A lot of companies, like to have a little less variation and keeps the production cycle a little faster. We like to be a little more tailored to each individual producer. And so we actually will make each one of these mixes in whichever fits your ranch best. Now, once you meet those at a minimal, are we producing bulls? Are we producing the most calves we can? Are we retaining these heifers? Are we making generations for our ranch, or are all these going to harvest, or what is our next step? And any of our guys can help. A lot of your local people can help. Texas Cattle Raisers has connections of people if you want to get in touch with them and work with them and know, what is your goals, what is your production cycle, because these supplements, you can curtail them to make you the most money and your cattle the most healthy, most successful they can be within your herd, once you know the facts in front of you. One of the biggest things, and the different reasons for having different styles of providing a supplement. Let's just take regions, for example. The southeast region of Texas, the kind of the coastline, the Beaumont down to South Texas. That you're going to have a higher salt content in your grasses. You're going to have a kind of a sea washy grass, thick bladed, and those are palatable forages, but they carry a salt in them. And with that, if we're selling loose mineral or a block, the draw to that mineral supplement is the salt. Cattle need salt, and so if you already have salt in your forages and your grasses, then that's not going to draw to them. We use molasses based cooked mineral tubs, and it meets all those needs like the slide we looked at before this, but it is in a different form, as in the way it is presented to the cow. Then the most common form is the loose mineral form. In the middle regions of Texas, this form you can put CTC in it. You can put, which is chlorotetracycline. You can put ionophores in there. You can add more things to that mixed loose bag that help with other things where the tubs are kind of locked down to just being a mineral supplement. You can, in the loose side, you can actually add more products that help with anaplasm and help with fly control and help with things that maybe you can't do in the tub form. That also is a less expensive option. You don't have the manufacturing processes or the production process costs. You can store it in your barn a little longer. They hold up a little better. Loose bagged mineral is probably the most common way, and always has been. The industry may change over time, but currently today, the loose mineral is the most common way to get it to cattle. And then out west, for sure on the Caprock, Texas, and out even in west and Alpine area, we sell a lot of block mineral. The old school way is to take salt blocks out, drop them out, pack them on your horse, and haul them out there. This block is going to have salt in it, but it's also going to have mineral, and that's going to meet your deficiencies. And you'll note they noticed it in this, like I said earlier, in the 50s and 60s when we were just meeting deficiencies with sulfates and oxides to supplement that ingredient in the cow-calf herd. They noticed more calves on the ground, better, healthier calves on the ground, and higher weaning rates. And so that block, salt block mentality, in a new form that meets the deficiencies, that has shown to be a good source and good way to provide supplement. Now, blocks are tough. You have to have the right pressure. You have to have the right mix of DDGs and molasses to have it hard enough to hold up to the elements, but soft enough that cattle can consume it at a good rate. So each one of these ways has its downfalls, but they all have their upsides too, because if we're not meeting those deficiencies and we choose not to do this, then that you can see it in the industry. You'll see it in when you sell your calves. You just won't be maxing out your herd even the slightest, and you'll probably be getting dinked because you'll have, sicker calves, weaker calves, and your cows won't be breeding up as much if you have extreme deficiencies in minerals in your cow-calf herd. Some of the more details of mineral technologies. With that, those are the three ways that we provide mineral. You can obviously get another ingredient within your feed, but the most common forms, is loose, block, and tub. And then some of the future things we talk about are the mineral technologies. Look at this graph here. The common forms, the bioavailability, the rumen stability, the interactions with other nutrients, the palatability is extremely important. The cost is of high knowledge to each producer, and then what is the best use or at what time. I've kind of broken down the three main groups of minerals here: the chelates, or your organics, your hydroxys, and your sulfates and oxides. like I said, back in the 50s and 60s, that's when we started mineral supplementation. That was your sulfates and oxides, the byproduct of the mines. That actually, that's bioavailable at a way, let's say that's, if you're going to get a 30 to 40% uptake of that. Some people argue you're going to get a 20 to 30% usage uptake of that. And that's the most common, cheapest way to provide a trace mineral. And so now I'm talking about your copper, zinc, manganese, your macro minerals, your salt, phosphorus, where I think a 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio is extremely common. That's what I learned in school. That's what everybody talks about. After you take your forage samples, you can look at that and what level of phosphorus you need for your cow-calf herd. And then you can break down what percentage of salt you want in there. It's extremely important to have that as your macros. And then in your micros, your copper, zinc, manganese, cobalt, those are what I'm talking about here. These are the different ways that you can have that product in your mineral mix. Sulfates and oxides are the cheapest, least absorbable, often reactive. They meet the basic necessities. This is where we saw the first growth in mineral supplementation. There's some good and you can add more, and there's a little bit better, but you add too much and then you cause problems. With that, and as technology grew and as our knowledge grew, we actually, created chelates or organic trace minerals. That just means that they took that sulfate oxide mineral out of the ground and then they put it through a binding process with a carbon, whether that's amino acid, or proteinate that actually makes that metal, that copper, zinc, more bioavailable. It's absorbed through a different pathway. It's protected better in the rumen, and so the pH changes as that cow eats that mineral at first, and then saliva, and then the rumen, and then eventually the small intestine. That pH changes throughout, and that's where you want to get as many minerals to the point of absorption as you can. And so the chelates actually weather that storm of that digestion better than sulfates and oxides. So in the past, some people would say, I'm feeding copper, but they still seem copper deficient. Maybe I'll just add some more. Well, if you add some more that are still getting degraded within the rumen and none of it's making it to the small intestine, well, more is not equal better. More just equals more expensive. So if you look at other options like chelates and organic trace minerals, that actually holds together so you can feed less and get more to the absorption site. There's research behind that. There's multiple companies that talk about that. We use multiple companies within our mixes. We kind of let the research and the availability of that product determine what is sold within the industry. We want to provide the best nutrient dense mineral we can to our customers' cows. And so with that, we are partnered with multiple companies to get these types of trace minerals. The newer one, and has shown to be extremely good too. So the sulfates and oxides are 20 to 30% absorbable. The chelates are 80 to 90% absorbable. And then the hydroxys are more like 60 to 70. With that, it's a hydroxychloride molecule bound to that metal. They hold up extremely well through the rumen. Not as good as organics, but way better than the oxides. With that, you can add them at the higher level, like we do the sulfates and oxides. And then that's at a cost that's not going to just kill the bank. That's at a cost that it kind of fits right in the middle there. If you're really wanting to produce the top level and the top, breeding bulls and retaining heifers and registered cattle and extremely important on carcass data, those chelates organics will help you meet those needs. If you're just trying to get a live calf to market, that sulfate oxide is really helping you, and you don't want to put the extra cost in, that maybe that fits your herd a little better. And then the hydroxys in the middle, maybe you can put, organic copper or organic zinc and only pick one ingredient that you think you're deficient in. And with that, work with a nutritionist, work with the guys taking your forage samples. That actually will help you fit the price point in your cow-calf herd that helps you be the most successful at where you need to be. And with those forage samples, you'll be able to see, if I'm extremely deficient in copper, and I noticed it in my cow-calf herd and my calves are sick, I may want to put a high dose of sulfates and oxides in there. But then I look at there and I have a little bit sulfur-free water, and I know that those oxides are going to bind with that sulfur, and then I'm not going to get that copper uptake, even though I'm adding more and more and more. So I need to use a different source of copper, an organic source or a hydroxy source, so that those don't bind with that sulfur, and it actually bypasses that in the rumen, and then it's degraded and absorbed in the small intestine. Those are just some things to talk through. I believe, some people don't all agree with this, but I believe multiple ways of absorption is the best way. The chelates, organics are absorbed through one pathway. The sulfates and oxides are absorbed through a different pathway. And so to feed a little bit of both, if either one of those, whether that's a stressor level or antagonist level, if those are blocked, those pathways are blocked, then you still have another source in there that's getting to the animal where they can utilize that ingredient best way they can. There's a long list of ways to talk through that, but I'll just stress again and again: forage samples, having someone in your corner that helps you know how to fit a nutrient to your cow-calf herd. It's not just protein and energy anymore. That is the most important, but if you're missing the mineral boat, you're missing a large piece of where the profits are made in this industry. Let's talk about the future. Let's kind of talk about what I see next, and kind of after you take these samples, what mineral fits your herd. Let's see what's next. Go. Here we go. With that, Google today, you can Google anything I'm talking about, and you'll probably learn more in 3 minutes of reading than I'm going to teach you today. There's just information everywhere at your fingertips. The important part is, marketing is a big piece of that, and you need to know the difference of who's going to help you and who's just trying to sell you something. Having a good relationship is going to be a key point in that. Technology, forage sampling, feed sampling, that's kind of the next most important thing. I think with the changes in the industry and the way people are talking about the less land, and we're producing more beef on less land, I think a key piece of that is the fact that we have extreme passion. Producers today are in it. Some of them are in it for the financial goals. Some of them, but a lot of them understand the finance and the struggles, and they're in it for the passion. I think that's just going to make us better. I think that's going to make us that much stronger, our cattle that much better. on these cows, and we can understand fetal programming and how we feed mineral within that cow-calf herd, calves and quality, that we're learning. We can use yeast product, we can use different types of protein, they can use multiple different ways to add health, add weight, add higher quality beef, add just add good all the way around. I guess it's the most basic way to say that. With the young producers coming in the industry, we have a lot smaller room for error. I think this creates a higher importance for successful planning. I think it's you're not going to be able to go work for somebody and them tell you the entire playbook. You're going to have to put in your passion. You're going to have to put in your effort. You're going to have to go spend time going and working and proving that you're willing to sweat for this industry, to learn those details, to learn those small, minute things that actually make their cattle successful at the end of the day. I think we could all go out today and buy cows, and we could have calves and take them to the market. I don't think everyone would make money doing that. I think everyone would lose money at first, until you figure out the details of your forages and of your mineral supplementation and what keeps healthy. That's where you're going to learn to make money and be successful in the industry. I think the future is exciting, and I think that we have a lot of things to look forward to, and just excited for what's next. So let's go to the last slide. That's kind of what I have for you today. We have about 10 or 15 minutes for questions here. This is my information. Like I said, I'm vice president of Nutrition Plus. We're a livestock supplement company, mainly focus on protein and loose mineral supplementation. So if you would want to feed or a normal feed program, go to those guys. They're the best at it. If you're looking at mineral supplementation, come to us. We have a different mindset of looking at it, and we want to look at all the facts to help you be the best producer you can. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Steve. It does look like we have a few questions, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and we can put this slide back up too if anyone needs to take pictures of his contact information whenever we get done with questions. So just
sorry, everybody, if I was spotty. It started hailing, and it's loud here in the house.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, first question. What are your thoughts on Rio Max tubs?
I get this a lot. I think they're a good.
Oh, I think we might have lost you momentarily. You are glitching on us. Are you there? Oh, okay. I can see you again.
I'm back. Sorry.
Yes, sorry about that.
No, they have a pile of ingredients. With that, it comes with a high price. That's not for every producer. Not every producer can spend the max amount on their supplement intake. And so with that, I think it fits a good part of the industry. I think they've shown that they can increase calf weight. They can increase breed up in cows. I think there's a lot of ingredients that can do that at maybe a lesser price. And with that, the way we do specific curtailed mineral programs, we could be able to pick out those two things you're missing and make a custom mix where they're going to sell a good product that fits a lot of cattle. That's where we would compete. But sure, nothing bad to say about them at all. I think there's a lot of good ingredients in their products. With that, we're each individual ingredient's gonna have positive effects, and sometimes you may feed stuff that doesn't work at all, but that doesn't mean it's not a good ingredient. That just means you didn't need it in your herd. So those are just things to know. And as we try to produce better cattle and more cattle, then that's important things to know. Which pieces are costing me money and which pieces can I add at a small amount that actually makes a max amount of profit for my cow calf herd. So
What, with summer months quickly approaching, what is one quick piece of advice that you'd give them regarding cattle nutrition and something that they can do just to maintain overall herd productivity and to prepare for the summer months coming?
the main thing is check the radar, check you, see if it's going to rain.
Yeah.
That's a key piece. You gotta have grass in this cow calf herd. Yeah, we can haul hay to them, but that cuts into your cost. See what if it's going to rain. That's the key piece. Up in the Panhandle Canyon area where I'm from, it's fires right now. We had a lot of rain last spring. A lot of grass grew and it was washy, and we've been supplementing protein, and now it's all burned down. So that completely changes the trajectory of where those guys were headed. Spent some time in Central Texas and north of Fort Worth, and they're getting rain every week. With that, the grass may be a little washy. It's tall, it's strong. There's not a high nutrient value in that. What supplements are you going to put into that as you move forward through the summer? So that rainfall is extremely important for grass growth, which completely changes your nutritive intake. The next biggest thing would be if you're calving, look at your protein intakes, look at your energy intakes. It's important to feed a good mineral 60 days prior to calving and then through breeding season. If you want to feed those higher quality product minerals, then you need to do that at that time. That's the least amount of cost input. And then it really year round to meet those deficiencies is great. But if you're just trying to target one time, that's the best time to target that 60 days prior to calving and then after until 30 days post breeding. So
We'll do one final call for any last minute questions. We'll give everyone another 30 seconds to drop them in the chat box if they have any. Do you have any final remarks for the group today?
I'm glad that y'all do this education piece. I think it's important. I think that people need to reach out and look for information, and then they really need to have a relationship with a feed company or someone they trust that has good cattle near them. To me, this industry is nothing without relationships. So, thanks for Cattle Raisers for getting everybody in a room and talking about it. And it's important to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and couldn't do it without Nutrition Plus. Y'all have been great partners of ours, and I'm very appreciative for everything that y'all do for us as well. Just a reminder for everyone on this webinar today, if you have any questions that you think of later, please feel free to email them at education@tscra.org, or you can contact Dee. We'll make sure that we pass along any questions that y'all might have. Happy to get them answered in a timely manner. So with that, we'll give everyone the last 15 minutes of this hour back to their day. We want to thank everyone for joining us today and hope everyone has a great afternoon, and look forward to seeing everyone on June 16th for the next Ranching 101 webinar, where we will be discussing technology transforming the beef production. So thanks again for joining us, Dee, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you.